Hi, Jolly Jules Cruise Companion. Today we're just coming into berth at Nouméa. This is an active cruise port, so they will end up doing an exclusion zone, and then buses will come to this area, collect us and take us outside the port area for our excursions like the Choo Choo train and the hop on hop off bus. There is a shuttle that goes from the port to the Old Ferry Terminal for people that don't want to do an excursion, that just want to explore for themselves. There's a tug just guiding us in here because we haven't yet berthed. Just a beautiful day. It'll be in the 20s. Just going to be superb. So I have a shore excursion that starts at 9 o'clock. That is the World War II Museum and the Maritime Museum. And so I just have to be on the dock ready to catch my bus just before 9 o'clock. But we haven't docked yet, so I'll just have a relax and catch up on my steps and see what today brings. I'm just waiting here for Carnival Splendor to dock at the Nouméa port. I can hear fellow guests saying how unattractive the port is, which is an unfortunate statement because these islands, this is the lifeblood. Nothing comes to or from the island without a shipping port. Most of the world's economy is on the ocean. It is the most majestic, awe-inspiring logistics for any natural resource. The other thing that's really important about these islands is, unfortunately, they have been devastated because of the stripping of the natural resources. But if you hadn't have had these natural resources and the mining, etc., these economies, these island nations, may never have progressed. Yes, they were colonial nations. This is a French colony, and there's a lot to be said about how bad colonization is. But without these economies, because all this money would have gone to the French mainland, there's a French judicial system and a French police system, judicial and political system. It's really important to understand that an active cruise port and industrialisation is what made these nations. So we can't use our personal judgments about what is pretty and what is attractive for these Pacific Island nations. So back down in the cabin, checking my day bag. I've got my money, I have my passport, I've got my sunglasses, I have my power pack so my phone never loses any charge. I've got an extra cord, and should the weather turn, I have a poncho. The important part of today is making sure that I have my excursion ticket, and I have them on my magnet just by the door, so all I've got to do is grab that and pop it straight into my day bag. So on your shore excursion ticket, it is going to tell you the date of the excursion and the location, the name of the excursion. It may even have a code. It will have your name, it will have the meeting point, and what time prior to the meeting point that you're required to join. So our bus has just dropped us off to the World War II Museum of New Caledonia, and the lady was explaining that this was a warehouse and everything in here is French, so if you want to understand it in English, to get the iPad. So let's go in and have a look. Entering into the World War II Museum of New Caledonia, we were given an iPad that you just pressed the number and you could either read or listen to information about that part of the display. You could actually get into that Jeep. There were little hats and coats that you could put on and have your photo taken. Predominantly all of the information at the World War II Museum is written in French. There is a little bit of English. But I would say because this is a very small display, it's in a warehouse, in an old warehouse. It's actually really comprehensive. It really is very interesting and runs chronologically over the course of the war and the liberation of the Pacific from the Japanese. The Kanaks are represented there in this display, the local Polynesian population. There were displays of medals, of bully beef, of medical equipment. There was a small setup of the equipment of a tent and a cot, etc., so that you could actually see how the diggers lived during that time, or what they experienced during that time. The whole museum had a variety of different styles of displays. It had these interactive displays with videos or computers. You could press a button and listen to some additional information through headphones. The graphics were really quite good and really easy to understand. Once again, it was a very small museum. We only had 45 minutes here, but we probably only needed about 30 minutes. It is on 2 levels. I don't know if there was a lift to get up to the second level. There was definitely some stairs at the front and the back of the hall to go up to the second floor. This group of visitors was looking down as if they were in a bomber. It was really quite interesting. They were listening to the information about what they would be flying over and what they would be dropping their bombs on if they were looking down from a plane. These artefacts from the time, the guide said that people are still bringing in artefacts from this period to the museum to give as gifts to the museum to be put on display. If you just wanted to fill in a little bit of time on your visit here to Nouméa, doing this tour with both the World War II Museum and the upcoming Maritime Museum, it was probably around $70 or so. It was quite worth having an outing and seeing the local history. Of course, Australia and New Zealand's military history is linked very closely with that of all the Pacific Islanders. So there was a small display for both Australia and New Zealand in support of the Pacific Islanders. So what the guide has told us so far was that there was 800 Japanese on the island, mostly from a Hawaiian descent, and when the Japanese invaded in 1941, they were all rounded up and put into internment camp, even though that they were locals. The guide has also said that this being an American outpost, there was up to 1 million GIs going through New Caledonia, even though it's a French colony. New Caledonia is a very strategic point in the Pacific, along with Guam, Indonesia, the Philippines, Singapore and Okinawa. Even though this is a very small museum, they have given us 45 minutes to explore. But one of the interesting things is just up there, there's a little theaterette, and it has some skits of people, couples talking about how the war has changed them and the horrors of war. So this isn't just a reflection on the glorification of war, it's actually got some pretty good points to it, to how and why we are free today. Actually, the boat is just 2 seconds across the other side there. There's a Choo Choo train ready for its customers to come. The bus has dropped us off at the Maritime Museum, which is a small museum that has 2 floors, and we've got 45 minutes here. At this part of the shore excursion, we were given 45 minutes to explore the Maritime Museum. The Maritime Museum here at New Caledonia predominantly focuses on 2 shipwrecks, an ancient shipwreck called the Laventoon and a modern shipwreck called the Monique. The lower floor is dedicated to maritime history. It has examples of vessels that would have been used during this time in diorama form, and then there is displays of artifacts that have been salvaged from the shipwrecks themselves. Some of these artifacts ranged from beads, coins, crockery, cutlery, bottles, light fittings. It's actually very good display. Everything is written in both French and English, and it's really easy to maneuver yourself around in this labyrinth type style. One of the things that I did observe was there's actually 2 or 3 different sections that is just child friendly, that have a maritime theme to games and interactions. So that is a very forward-thinking idea in this museum. The displays are quite beautifully set out. They're not overly cluttered. And all the items are very clean and well cared for and tended. The maritime history is pivotal to the expansion of this area. Being an island, nothing could happen without a maritime industry. Fair Amity, the lighthouse, there was one of the old lamps from the lighthouse. Without having that form of safety and security, the maritime trade would have been near impossible. There were several examples of maritime navigation. There was sextants and measuring devices. The lamps were just beautiful. Actually, the whole museum was really quite a nice, small, intimate museum. It wasn't too crowded and busy. It just had us from the bus, about 36 people. Then from the La Pérouse, which was the first ship that came from the French explorers, it demonstrated the variety of explorers that encountered the islands up to Captain James Cook. The French naval uniform was very well preserved. There were other artefacts such as head, hat ornaments, hat displays. They were really quite intricate as well. Even though there was some gunshot and a few cannons on display, the whole museum focused more on the day-to-day activities on the boat, for example with the bottles and the cups and saucers, etc. and the plates. It was very interesting. The whole new second floor of the Maritime Museum is dedicated to a modern shipwreck of the Monique. It appears to be a shipwreck that is still haunting the islands to this day. She was lost with 126 souls and has never been found. She was a Vietnamese ship that was going between Nouméa and Murray Island. and the whole search was investigated but did not come up with anything definitive of where she was lost. So there is quite a reverent emotion and feeling about the Monique that is represented in this display. And there is a song playing continually about the loss of these 126 souls. The silence of the sea. So the bus dropped us back at the ship, have some lunch, and then I'll head down to the town again with the shuttle.
You can go ahead, ma'am, by the marshalling area. It's on the back. Thank you.
Thank you.